We, YX Precious Metals Berhad, via our subsidiaries, namely Yi Singh Goldsmith Sendirian Berhad and Gamas Precious Metals Industries Sendirian Berhad, Amas Essaya Sendirian Berhad, and finally GPM Refinery Sendirian Berhad, is a gold jewelry specialist involved in the wholesaling, designing and manufacturing of gold jewelry. Our other related products and services include sales of scrap and pure gold bars, manufacture of silver chains, and provision of refining services for precious metals. Manufacturing of gold jewelry. Our gold jewelry manufacturing mainly includes the manufacturing of solid and hollow gold chains, bead manufacturing, and lost wax casting for bangles, pendants, charms, and earrings. As a gold jewelry specialist, we focus on 916 gold jewelry, which contains 91.67% pure gold content alloyed with other metals. This starts with the procurement of scrap or pure gold bars. Firstly, all the scrap gold bars will undergo a refining process to convert them into pure gold for further processing. Subsequently, the pure gold bars will undergo an alloying process to convert them into 916 gold for our jewelry manufacturing. Manufacturing of solid and hollow gold chains. The gold is formed into solid or cord gold wire. Both are used to form the links of chains. The solid gold wire starts from a solid rod. The gold rod is drawn through a series of reducing dies to become solid gold wire. The cord gold wire starts with the gold bar passing through rollers to form a solid gold sheet, which is then cut into the required width to become solid gold strips. The gold strip is then folded over a long base metal core using special dies. We commonly use copper as the metal core to provide the shape and support to wrap the gold around. This gold-wrapped core is then drawn to become the cord gold wire. During the forming process, the solid gold and cord gold wires will become hard and brittle. They will then go through an annealing process to make it more malleable and workable for subsequent processes. The annealed wires then pass through an automatic chain-making machine that creates the link and subsequently weaves the links to become a continuous chain. The gaps between each link will be soldered together by covering the chain with solder powder, placing them in a furnace to melt the powder, and closing the gaps. For the hollow gold chain, the core metal is removed by using nitric acid that will dissolve the copper core and will flow out of the seams without affecting the gold. The solid or hollow gold chain is then twisted, hammered or compressed into the required design and cut into pieces depending on the required lengths. We will conduct quality control checks such as internal assaying and visual inspection of the finishing of the final product to check for any defects, including blemishes, dents, bubbles, and stains. Bead manufacturing. Beads can be strung into ball or bead chains and formed into chain products such as necklaces, bracelets, and anklets. It can also be used to create or add value onto a jewelry piece to create a pendant, charm or earring. Starting with a solid gold rod, the gold rod is extruded to create a hollow cavity to become the hollow gold tube. During the forming process, the gold tube will become hard and brittle. It will then go through an annealing process to make it more malleable and workable. The annealed gold tube will then go through the ball forming machine, where the gold tubes will be cut, pressed and formed into beads. We usually manufacture beads with diameters ranging from 2 mm to 8 mm. The bead is then finished through cutting at different angles using CNC machines. The finished beads will either be connected with a string to form a bead chain or assembled with other chains to make necklaces, bracelets, anklets and earrings. Lost wax casting. Lost wax casting, also referred to as investment casting, is used to manufacture gold jewelry such as bangles, pendants, charms and earrings. We design our jewelry using automated CAD software. The design is then 3D printed to produce a solid plastic version of the design. This solid plastic item becomes our master mold to make numerous copies. From the master mold, we can make several negative rubber molds of the master mold. The negative rubber mold has a cavity in the exact shape of the solid master mold. Copies can be made by injecting the molten wax into the mold cavity to create wax models for casting. Once cooled, the hardened wax is removed from the rubber mold. The wax copies are then attached to an investment casting tree. This tree is then suspended in a metal flask and investment powder in slurry form is poured around it. The investment mold is vibrated to remove air bubbles and allowed to set for 4 minutes. Once set, it is placed into an oven to melt the wax, leaving a void that will become the jewelry component. Molten gold is poured into the cavity of the investment tree mold. Once the gold hardens, the whole tree will be submerged into cold water to dissolve the investment materials, leaving behind the gold tree with side arms. The side arms or jewelry components are then clipped off from the tree. The finishing process goes through a grinding process and the assembly of jewelry with other components through soldering or manual jointing. Finally going through the cleaning and polishing processes. Refining of precious metals. As part of our in-house gold jewelry manufacturing process, we undertake refining of precious metals, in particular gold. We also provide refining services to some external customers. The refining process is used to recycle scrap gold bars, used gold jewelry, and gold waste created from our manufacturing process. Our refining process is for gold and silver only. Firstly, the refinable materials are melted and then granulated. The granulated materials are dissolved in a heated mixture of nitric acid and hydrochloric acid. The dissolution process produces a solution, after which a reducing agent is then added to precipitate pure gold. The gold is then filtered, washed and dried to produce high-purity gold powder. The refined gold is then ready to be used. Gold assaying. Assaying is the process of determining the content of various components of gold alloy with high accuracy. Gold assaying determines the quantitative content of gold in terms of percentage in a gold product. As part of our internal manufacturing process, we carry out fire assaying of gold items, which is also known as the cupellation method. We carry out gold assaying on all of our scrap gold bars and all of our in-process gold materials. We also carry out gold assaying on some of the finished gold jewelry products that we sourced from external manufacturers. As fire assaying is a destructive method, this is only undertaken on a case-by-case basis. This begins by taking a sample to be assayed, and the sample will then be further cut into 3 smaller samples. The smaller sample is weighed, then wrapped in lead foil together with silver and copper. Shallow porous cups known as cupels are preheated inside a muffle furnace at 800 degrees Celsius. The samples are placed in the cupel and inserted into the furnace to be heated at 1100 degrees Celsius. The samples are then cleaned, annealed at 800 degrees Celsius, and then rolled and formed into a strip form. The samples will then go through a nitric acid wash to remove any impurities, thereby leaving the pure gold content only. The samples will subsequently go through an annealing process to create a compact form to be weighed to determine its gold purity. The dedicated team behind our group with 3 decades of experience is looking to bring the company to new heights and position ourselves to better service our customers.